boy to come to read the Quran. That small boy is going to read the Quran. I need to get his name. What's he doing? Very hard because he's short. Put a chair there for him. Stand up. I certainly have for the food. The boy comes, need to get his name. Give me his name again. His name again.
Shahir Noor.
Shahir.
H-E-E-R.
Double E.
Double E-R.
Shahir.
No, it's here. H-E-E-R.
Shahir
Noor.
Noor.
N-O-O-R.
Okay. So you put a chair here to stand.
Can you
for-
not just hold it or?
I don't know if it'll, because they said it's a little bit wobbly, it might fall off.
Okay, just give me 2 seconds. Ask the brother if you can. Shahir, just hold
Is the mic on? Sit down.
I think this one.
Put it down.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, see?
Okay. So you put it down. I'll just say his name and put it back up so we can start off there first.
And then you just hold it. You can do it. Just think that you just do that.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah. Alhamdulillah rabbil alameen wa salatu wa salam ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi ajma'in. Dear brothers and sisters in Islam, we welcome you all to this program. We will start the program with the very best, a recitation from the Holy Quran by our little brother, Shahir Noor.
Surah 93.
What the surah?
Surah Duha. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والضحى والليل إذا سجى ما ودعك ربك وما قلى وللآخرة خير لك من الأولى ولسوف يؤتيك ربك فترضى ألم يجدك يتيما فآوى ووجدك ضالا فهدى ووجدك عائلا فأغنى فأما اليتيم فلا تقهر وأما السائل فلا تنهر وأما بنعمة ربك فحدث. صدق الله العظيم. السلام عليكم.
We apologize for the delay because we're just waiting for people to come in. So we will adjust the time accordingly, inshallah. So without further delay, we'd like to call on Dr. Jamal Badawi to speak on Misunderstood Islamic Text, Part 2, on relating to other communities in peace and war. Dr. Jamal Badawi.
الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على خاتم الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. My dear brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. First of all, my sincere word of grace to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He gathered us here for His sake and to learn from one another and hopefully also inspire one another. And my appreciations also for the entire Tanweer family, of the Hassans, the Zaman's family, for their efforts. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless them amply for what they're doing. The topic, it says it's the second part because the first part on the same theme of misunderstood Islamic text was presented yesterday in the Central Mosque in London. Today, inshallah, we will take the second part that deal with this. Both issues, in my humble view, and I'm sure in the experience of many of you, a great deal of misunderstanding, which is a source also of propaganda, anti-Islamic propaganda, is based on lack of understanding, not deliberate necessarily. In some cases it could be deliberate, in some cases it could be innocent lack of information. So inshallah we'll try to address that. The issue, women issue as well as the question of violence are the 2 points of lots of attack and lots of misunderstanding. So that's how it fits in the first part, inshallah ta'ala. I'll deal first with methodology, but I'm using simpler terms than I used in London, a slightly different order, but essentially the same material. Assuming there is no ill intent, how do we discover the type of errors and the causes of some of those errors of interpretation. And by the way, when we say Islamic text, we're not talking about text by a famous scholar or mufti. Islamic text means to me what the Quran and Sunnah, the ultimate sources. There are other sources of juridical interpretation, but there are only two revelatory sources. One is verbatim revelation, that is the Quran. The other is revelation in meaning to the Prophet ﷺ, and he uses his own words to express that, to put it simply. So that I'm defining what do we mean by Islamic texts. Now, one error to start with, unfortunately we can't use PowerPoint because of the change of venue, but inshallah we should be able to follow it. There are sometimes outright mistranslations. Examples are coming. I'm just giving you a list so that you don't think I'm not going in reverse to respond to people, to create methodology to respond. That's not the right way academically. No, just list and we'll see the examples or application of these. And that's exactly what I used to do. I used to teach a course on Introduction to the Quran and its Sciences in the university, where I taught in other subjects also. And I have used this same kind of presentation as part of the course, which say how do we understand the Quran. So we spend lots of time discussing these issues and then see application at the same time. But here, inshallah, we'll do it briefly, especially that we're starting quite late, and inshallah we'll try to be more easygoing. So, outright translation. It's a difficulty in any scripture, but in the case of the Quran, with its precision, it is a source of lots of problems. Secondly, that sometimes you say, but this is not an error because this is what the lexicon or dictionary say. But we say this is not as simplistic as it may sound. Why? Because the lexicon give you sometimes more than one meaning. Run, the word run. Run in the field, run business, run a machine. You know, it has variety of meanings. So it is not enough just to go by and pick one of the meanings and say it is based on the dictionary. It has to be contextual. When I say running in the field or in the street, it's different from running business. Okay, so the context makes a difference. One of the helpful things in understanding Quranic terms in its original Arabic is to understand also the roots from which this term came. Inshallah, we'll see that in analyzing the term jihad, for example. Where did it come from and what does it mean? Both, not only lexically, but in the Islamic sense as well. Thirdly, sometimes people interpret the Quran without any knowledge or insufficient knowledge or distorted knowledge for that matter about certain aspects or rules in interpreting Islamic text, whether Quran or Hadith, but I'm focusing a lot on the Quran for this presentation really. One of them is reasons for revelation. That's one of the sub-disciplines in Ulum al-Quran, sciences of the Quran. I'm not going in details in that because it could take the whole session for it, but for an example, somebody coming to ask a question to the Prophet ﷺ, and then the revelation come to give the response or answer. An event take place in the life of the Prophet, not before, not prediction of the future. You don't say that the reason for or occasion of revelation of Surah Al-Fil is Abraha, because that was before Islam. So technically, it has to be within the lifetime of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There is a concept that sometimes is mixed up with reasons for revelation, because like I say, reasons for revelation is more precise, very limited definition for it. But historical context is a broader concept which is very relevant also in understanding ayat in the Quran and hadith as well. That is, what kind of situation Muslim lived at the time of revelation of the Quran that may explain certain references in the Quran. Not to say that it's applicable only to that. This is a very serious theory. Some people come, Quran is historical, but they mean by that it is just like any other book of history. No. But historical setting shed light, but it doesn't mean that there is no validity elsewhere. This is a matter that has to be evaluated on its own merit. A second aspect is disregarding the textual context. Again, I apologize for the few who were there in London yesterday. I'm presenting it slightly different, but the same content really. When we speak about the context of the Quran, before we say this ayah say that, all right, but did you quote the full ayah? Because sometimes they quote one part, even one ayah. Secondly, even if you have the full ayah, what is after and what is before? If you say, فَوَيْلٌ لِلْمُصَلِّينَ, woe to those who pray, if you translate it literally, what does it say after that? Okay. So, of course, we understand, of course, what the slippery road here. Even if you quote the entire ayah in the Quran, what were the ayat before and after in a given section? It could be 10, 15, more or less continuous meaning that explain itself. Then there is also the important role of the sound hadith or sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. And again, we're not getting into the technicalities about whether sunnah is the same as hadith or not. There may be slight difference, but most use it interchangeably, so we'll just opt for that. And the hadith or sunnah may explain certain ayat in the Quran, may qualify the words even that appear in the Quran in a way that is irrelevant even to the lexical meaning. Would be wrong even to translate it, even though lexically it is correct, but in terms of the context of these ahadith and what it says about the same topic, you get a different meaning. A fourth area of errors is unjustified generalization. You can't generalize every word. You have to see what the context is. Inshallah, I'll give a different example today than the one yesterday, because it relates more also to Muslim relationship with other communities. The term An-Nas, literally An-Nas means the whole of mankind. In the context of Surah An-Nas, that Allah is Rabb An-Nas, you have to interpret it as including every human being from Adam until the Day of Judgment, because there is no Rabb but Allah. But then in Ali Imran, when it says الَّذِينَ قَالَ لَهُمُ النَّاسُ إِنَّ النَّاسَ قَدْ جَمَعُوا لَكُمْ فَاخْشَوْهُمْ, here we find example of both. Historical context is very important. It's not just the history. Historical context, and also the meaning of the word that may not necessarily be in the lexicon. In the lexicon, it says An-Nas, meaning all humans. But there is another meaning in Ali Imran here, because historically it was some people, maybe a few individuals, or maybe one even, who came to warn Muslims in Medina that the idolatrous Arabs are gathering armies to fight against you. So not the whole of humanity was not preparing to come and attack Muslims in Medina. For example, also the issue of people of the book. Ya Ahl al-Kitab. People of the book, of course, is widely understood to refer to Jews and Christians. But when the Quran criticizes the action of some of the people of the book, it says, Ya Ahl al-Kitab. If we generalize it automatically, that includes all of Ahl al-Kitab, it would contradict other things in the Quran itself even, let alone historically. So this is something to be cautious, because some people, your Quran is criticizing us, saying, but we don't all believe in this or do that. It could be some, just for those who are interested in the ulum al-Quran, this is referred to in the sciences of the Quran as al-am الذي يراد به الخاص. A word that seems to be general, involving everything, but in fact, the context and historical context as well shows that it is only speaking about a subset of those people, but not all الناس for that matter. Another aspect also of the importance of precision here is that, so it's not an invented idea to say, يراد به الخاص, it's meant to refer to some. How do we know? That the Quran itself rejects the notions of overgeneralization. For example, if the Quran criticizes some of the people of the book for deviation, or for their love of money, for example, it also recognizes those to whom the ayah doesn't apply. Okay? For example, ذلك بأنهم قالوا إنما البيع مثل الربا وأحل الله البيع وحرم الربا. And then you get to an ayah that criticizes people of the book, some of the people of the book, and the evidence that the ayah itself says that. Okay? ومن أهل الكتاب من إن تأمنه بدينار لا يؤديه إليك ومنهم من إن تأمنه بقنطار لا يؤديه إليك ومنهم من إن تأمنه بقنطار يؤديه إليك ومنهم من إن تأمنه بدينار لا يؤديه إليك إلا ما دمت عليه قائما. This is not a generalization or anti-Semitic or anti-Jewish or any of these words that are ill-defined or not defined clearly at all, as we see today in the media. Basically, the ayah says, among the people of the book, Jews and Christians, and some say that this applies more to Jews because of the historical context, immaterial. Okay, if you entrust that person of the people of the book with a ton of gold, he will be returning to you. He returned it to you promptly as soon as you ask him to return it back, meaning honest person. And among them there are those that if you entrust him with 1 dinar, he will not give it back to you unless you keep demanding. Notice here, anti-stereotyping. That's the thing. On the surface, fishing in troubled waters, that's an act that is anti this or anti that. So there is more than one instance where we find the balance in the Quran, which shows it's from Allah, because people are emotional and they might, just because of their disagreeing with someone, always they look negatively and try to say, it's like exactly Muslims are the victims of that stereotyping. Somebody did a violent act or slaughter innocent people, oh, Muslims slaughter. And the more ignorant even, and we heard that, Islam is against us. Islam as an entity, not even Muslims, or Muslims in a given, or some of the Muslims, the Quran is free of this exaggerated, unfair human stereotyping. There are other issues also. Among the most important is that some ayat in the Quran have definitive meaning. You cannot interpret it one way or the other. More than one. Sorry, I'm blabbering today. Okay, you can interpret it in more. You cannot interpret it except in one way. Aqimus salah means aqimus salah. Okay, you don't say no, not really. I could see it this way or that way. I can sit on my chair and say, Subhanallah, I made dua already, I made salah. Anyway, there's only one meaning unless you're violating the rules of the language and the rules of logic and the content of the totality of the teaching of Islam. There are other ayat that the meaning is, carefully I'm using the term, not indefinite or lacking definitiveness, but I say non-definitive, which means something that could carry more than one meaning, even if you follow all the rules of tafsir or interpretation. Inshallah, we might get into that as we look into example. But one of them, actually mentioned here today, that is in part, even though I had that file before, but was prompted by a question that came up in London. There were two questions. One is on apostasy, and because there were so many questions, I didn't have a chance to answer the second question. Somebody says a priest was telling us that all the ayat in the Quran that speak about peace and love and coexisting with others have only been, just to reword it to make it clear, are only revealed in Mecca when Muslims weak and few. But now, and this is a common one that's been raised before, but now when Muslims were victorious in Medina and they were able to establish a state and protect their faith and freedom of belief and worship, they started persecuting others. And they say all of these niceties in the Quran has been actually abrogated. Sometimes they say by one ayah, and sometimes they differ. Which ayah? You know, is it in Surah Al-Fath or is it in Surah Al-Bara'ah? One ayah or two abrogated the dozens of ayat. First of all, methodologically speaking, if one really is an honest researcher rather than someone just throwing shubuhat and doubts in the mind of people, historically it is wrong, because among the revelations in Mecca, there were also aspects about the right of self-defense, that are the basic things that lead even later on to establishment. Yes, the emphasis in the Meccan Quran was on spirituality, relation to Allah, ibadah, and all of that, because these are the foundation. It's not just organizing a state like any other state. That has to be solidly built on those foundations. So there is no argument here that it is wrong, even historically, in terms of surahs in Medina that continued spirituality and morals, and surahs or ayat in Mecca that deals with the regulation, simple as it may be. All right. So this is. But by the way, for example, I'll give you just one example. Surah Al-Mumtahana, Surah number 60, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala teaches us peaceful, just coexistence with all others who are not fighting Muslims. And we'll come to that inshallah. That surah, nobody can argue that it was a Makki surah. It is definitely a Medinan surah, because it comes in the context of most of the surah really deal with the women who left the mushrikeen in Mecca. That's after Muslim went to Medina and wanted to join Muslims in Medina. How could you tell me that this is a revelation? And it speaks about peaceful coexistence. So as if the Quran in Medina is nothing but aggressive, kill that and hate this or that. It's not. So this is the notion of abrogation. Also has certain rules and certain requirements. It could take a long time to explain that there have been some exaggeration, even among some early Muslim scholars, unfortunately, of how many ayah in the Quran has been abrogated. And in the opinion of Shah Waliullah Dahlawi, for example, there is no more than 4 or 5, none of which relate to war and peace issues. It has other juridical aspects. So this exaggeration and non-observation of what constitutes so-called abrogation. I don't like the word abrogation even. It's naskh. Actually, it could be specification rather than really abrogation, but we'll leave that for the time being because of time. There is now, before even we complete any list of requirements, because too many of them and require more detailed exposition to be fully understood, there are also something that should not be forgotten when we interpret any ayah or hadith, which are definitive values, definitive basic values or teaching of Islam. And you should never be forgotten when somebody focuses on one ayah and try to build a theory, which could all collapse because of the lack of awareness of those values. I'll go through this very quickly, and I wish again we had the PowerPoint, but inshallah I'm going to leave the PowerPoint file with Brother Tanweer, and if he wishes to put it on any site, or you can contact him for this. So you have the exact ayat, chapter, and verse. So not just creating a code of interpretation. One is freedom of belief and worship. The ayat are known in that. Secondly, that the Quran speaks beside the brotherhood of faith about human brotherhood, like in the beginning of Surah An-Nisa, addressing, "Oh, humankind, we created you from male and female," ila akhir ayah. So again, it is a common bond among all humans as such. Secondly, to accept. The Quran teaches acceptance, not agree. Accepting plurality in society. For example, these two ayahs are important in Surah Hud in ayah 118. ولو شاء الله لجعلكم أمة واحدة. If Allah wanted, He would have made you all one community rather than East and West and black, white, this. That make you one ummah altogether, if it is will. So the fact that He created us in different colors and races, why? لِتَعَارَفُوا, to get to know one another. Nobody is superior to the other except by taqwa, being righteous. Okay? The other ayah might relate to something that might be surprising to some. That you could disagree, yes, because this is your faith, with other faith communities, even people of the book. But it doesn't mean that you have to force them according to what you consider truthful and right. You have to accept the fact that there is even diversity in religious beliefs. وَلَوْ شَاءَ رَبُّكَ, the second one is in Surah Yunus, in more particularly ayah 99. وَلَوْ شَاءَ رَبُّكَ لَآمَنَ مَنْ فِي الْأَرْضِ كُلُّهُمْ جَمِيعًا. If your Lord willed, Allah, He would have made all people on earth believer. No atheist, no this or that. And of course, from a Quranic perspective, the truth in its final and perfect form is the Quran, is Islam. Allah could have made all people Muslims, for example, if not believers in Allah. And then it addresses the Prophet ﷺ a rhetorical question. Are you going then to force people to become Muslims? So it doesn't mean you agree with everything, no. It simply says that the reality of diversity is part of the scheme of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. لِيَبْلُوَكُمْ فِي مَا أَتَاكُمْ. Allah is testing you in what He has given you in terms of spirituality, rationality, and whatever. The issue of justice also is very much figured in the Quran. We talked about that in some details during the question-answer period in Ramadan, in London. The ayah of mercy is very important because it actually speaks about mercy not only to Muslims but mercy to non-Muslims, not only humans but angels and animals and resources and plants. Amazing ayah. وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. Surah Al-Anbiya, that's Surah 21, in the last ayah, 107. We have not sent you, O Muhammad, except as mercy to the worlds in plural, which is inclusive of all, let alone the importance of mercy to humans. Whether they accept that mercy or not, but that's His mission, that's His mandate. The right for legitimate self-defense. Inshallah, we will come to that when we talk about the meanings of jihad. And finally, the gentle, non-violent dialogue with other people. The Quran speaks about it on two levels. It speaks about gentleness, objectivity, and peacefulness in arguing with anyone. But there is some particular ayah in Surah Al-Ankabut, Surah 29, ayah 46. وَلَا تُجَادِلُ أَهْلَ الْكِتَابِ إِلَّا بِالَّتِي هِيَ أَحْسَنُ. Don't argue with the people of the book except what is best, not good, best, which include also courtesy and mutual respect, except for those of them who commit aggression against you. إِلَّا الَّذِينَ ظلمون. And say to them, we believe in what has been revealed to you, but of course, according to the Quran, revealed to you in the original form, or what remained intact of original revelation. And yes, some is intact and consonant with the Quran. وَأُنزِلَ إِلَيْنَا, the Quran, or the reverse, أُنزِلَ إِلَيْنَا وَأُنزِلَ إِلَيْكُمْ وَإِلَهُنَا وَإِلَهُكُمْ وَاحِدٌ. Your Lord and ours is one and the same God. So this is amazing in spite of differences in theology about Tawheed versus Trinity, for example, and so on. But even then the Quran invites us to search for the common ground that everybody accepts, and then move from there to understand those differences, but respectfully. So this is something the Quran, there is more to that, but again, because of time, I'll just move on to applications. And forgive me if sometimes I have provocative questions. Anyway, first of all, does Islam really sanction holy war? One, the holy war is not an Arabic term. And the English holy war is translated roughly in Arabic, for those who know Arabic, Harb Muqaddasa. Nowhere in the Quran do you find that term, Harb Muqaddasa. Not once. Two, the term holy war originated not after Islam came. It originated in medieval times and the so-called holy wars against Muslim, the Crusades. So it did not originate in Muslim literature. And if some later people use that term imitating others, it is not in the Islamic text, not text of other interpretation or understanding. Third, some people mix also between qital and jihad. Jihad is broader. A subset of that is battlefield jihad, which is actually, you can call it jihad because it's part of jihad, but more precisely, it is qital. Qital means fighting, and we'll see that when qital is permissible. Nowhere in the Quran do we find that it says fight those people either to force them to become Muslim or fight them because they are non-Muslims, whether they Ahl Kitab or others. The Quran calls for just, kind, respectful treatment of peaceful or peacefully and justly coexisting Muslims. Again, this is a revelation that even came in Medina. And what does it say for those who say all peaceful ayat are abrogated? لا ينهاكم الله عن الذين لم يقاتلوكم في الدين ولم يخرجوكم من دياركم أن تبروهم وتقسطوا إليهم إن الله يحب المقسطين. I limit my comments because you could take more time actually explaining that, but basically the basic meaning. Allah does not forbid you, meaning all Muslims, with respect to those who did not fight you because of your religion or drive you out of your homes, which means aggression or oppression, that you should deal with them in kindness and justice. For Allah loves those who engage in that teaching, that guidance of Allah. Qital, in fact, in the Quran is not highly praised in itself. In Surah Al-Baqarah, Surah 2, in Ayah 216, كتب عليكم القتال وهو كره لكم وعسى أن تكرهوا شيئا وهو خير لكم. Qital has been prescribed to you. That means it's permitted, sanctioned. Okay? And we'll talk again about its condition. But you may hate something in which there is good for you, which I understand it to mean. Hate, you don't glorify fighting and bloodshed, and that you brought people to their knees or crushed them. All of this sort of a combination of racism, pride, nationalism, misplaced nationalism. It has lots of evil involved in that. No. What it says basically that if they abstain from attacking you or oppressing you, driving out your homes, you live with them in peace. That means you don't fight them, because it says if the conditions for fighting them is not there, then in ilm al-usul there is something called mafhum al-mukhalafa, which means that you cannot fight them if they did not aggress against you because of your religion, or oppress you by driving you out of their home, your homes, as happened with our pious predecessors. So that's what the Quran says about it. Furthermore, if they say the Quran calls for holy war against non-Muslims, and everybody, including Jews and Christians, of course, yet in Surah 5, Surah Al-Ma'idah, it permits some limited form of interfaith marriage. That is, a believing woman of the people of the book is lawful unto man. And since she is his wife, the Quran say in Surah Ar-Rum, Surah 30, Ayah 21, that Allah made for you from your same nature spouses that you might find peace, comfort, and tranquility with them, and ordained between your hearts love and mercy, meaning tranquility and comfort, love, and the word love even is downgraded, but it's mawadda, it's more than that anyway, and rahmah, compassion. Now, that is how Surah Al-Rum defined your obligation towards your wife, and did not say only if she's a Muslim. Your wife is your wife. So, but because she's a non-believer, you have to wage a holy war against your wife. Tell me, what kind of logic is this? 2, is jihad really that you're just arguing about terms and lexical meanings? But isn't jihad the same as holy war, just the Arabic equivalent? No. There are miles apart, like the distance between far east and far west. Why? Again, you might remember, he said one of the rules of interpretation is to benefit also from the root from which the term comes, so that you define it more concisely. Jihad comes from JHD. By the way, some people say jahada, jihad. No, the roots normally don't have vowel signs, like Islam, SLM, not salam. Salam is a derivation, but the root itself is JHD. What is the meaning of that root? To exert maximum effort, to strive for something good, at least in your eyes. The usage of the primary source of Islam, the supreme one, really is the Quran. And look at examples in the Quran itself where you have a derivation of the term from the same root, like the term jihad, or even the word jihad itself. I'll go through them very quickly. 1, inner jihad. وَمَنْ جَاهَدَ فَإِنَّمَا يُجَاهِدُ لِنَفْسِهِ. Sometimes the word even jihad comes in the context not of a battlefield, but in the context of self-purification. So that's 1. It is there. And the ayat, inshallah, you can see it in the copy of the file, inshallah. There is also a common term, even though it's not exactly in the Quran, but it is well known to all of us, all classical and later jurists, the term ijtihad, to apply opinion in something in which the Quran or Hadith doesn't have a definitive thing. So it is ijtihad. You exert maximum effort or exertion of maximum intellectual effort by qualified scholars who understand the meaning of ijtihad and its conditions and its applications. It comes from JHD, has nothing to do with violence or battlefield. There is also, so that's juridical jihad. There is also jihad, here jihad, or istiqaq min jihad. A verb, a command verb, appear in the Quran in Surah Al-Furqan, Surah 50, addressing the Prophet, Furqan, it is not 50. 50 is Al-Qalam. Okay. All right. Okay. I'll correct myself as I go on, but let me go to the third form of jihad is financial jihad. The Quran speaks about al-jihad bin-nafs wal-mal wajahadu bi-amwalihim wa anfusihim jihad, and it has the same root meaning, basic meaning. Because when you pay that extra dollar that you don't need to feed a poor who's dying of hunger, you make jihad and struggle against miserliness or lack of concern for the needy. So the meaning of jihad is there in the financial sense, like in zakah and sadaqah. There is peaceful political jihad. When the Prophet ﷺ said that among the best shuhada is Hamza, and a man who stands to a tyrannical ruler and tell him what to do, or tell him what is right or wrong, criticize him peacefully, and that ruler kills him. He is mujahid and he's shaheed also. So that I could call peaceful political jihad. Then there is qital, is allowed, as mentioned earlier in the Quran. Under what conditions? Well, we knew already the ayah in Surah Al-Mumtahana. La yanhakum Allah, Allah does not forbid you from dealing with people who are not fighting you peacefully and kindly. So that actually means that jihad, by simply attacking others, committing violence without any justification, is forbidden. But the Quran is more explicit and clear. In the second surah, Surah Al-Baqarah, in ayah 190 to 195, you find the two same reasons. Look at the consistency and harmony in the Quran. The same two reasons in Al-Mumtahana, Surah 60, which was in Medina. Al-Baqarah was revealed over so many years. But in any case, the same two reasons are mentioned. Fight in the way of Allah those who are fighting against you, but commit no excess or aggression, for Allah doesn't love the aggressors. And later on it says, الَّذِينَ أُخْرِجُوا مِنْ دِيَارِهِمْ, those meaning who are allowed to fight back, who were driven from their homes for no reasons except that they say, our Lord is Allah. So, same, aggression, initiation of aggression, and even then it is controlled, as we see that even when it goes to the code of ethics, even in the battlefield, even to repel aggression or to demand your rights and not accept oppression or being driven from your home so that somebody else would make mughtasabat, some people call it mustawtanat, on your land and drive you away. So the ethics, if you're aware and familiar with the Geneva Convention and other international laws of war that came in the middle of the 20th century as a result of the Second World War, you think this is very advanced, modern, humane. It added nothing really substantial to what the Prophet ﷺ and his companion after him, especially Al-Rashidun, Khulafa Al-Rashidun, followed. Not killing a woman who's fighting, a child, an old man, a clergy, even a clergy of other religions that you don't believe in. You don't cut trees and destroy things for the sake of destruction unless there is some special, contingency for war, as explained elsewhere in the Quran. So you don't plunder, you don't destroy the infrastructure of the country. We have seen that in Iraq war, or the Iraq invasion, and in other places. We saw it done in other countries where even the basic structure, sewage system, water system, electricity for hospitals have been destroyed, or that is what the world considered to be humane, even though they don't apply it very well. Anyway, so what did the Geneva Convention add to that? And even the Quran opened the door for reconciliation. One beautiful ayah, which I think is in the same surah, Surah Al-Mumtahana, Surah 60. عَسَى اللَّهُ أَن يَجْعَلَ بَيْنَكُمْ وَبَيْنَ الَّذِينَ عَادَيْتُم مِّنْهُمْ مَوَدَّةً. It may be that the people between you and them, there have been enmity, adawa, become your close friends. It didn't say accept Islam. Of course they accept Islam, well and good. But even then, the door is open for reconciliation, which to me is explained in the Mumtahana 8, that is peaceful but just coexistence with everyone else. Are Muslim told to kill non-Muslim wherever they find them? This is perhaps the most abused, misquoted, or partly quoted, or partly misinterpreted ayah that you feel people have been chipping in to give the ultimate evidence that the source of all violence that happened, whether at 9/11 or before or after, and selectively only by Muslims, that it is this Quran, this particular ayah. Let's apply some of those rules quickly, because again, the time is only 5 minutes left, inshallah. I'll try my best to get as close as possible, inshallah. Historical context. Historical context was well known when the peace treaty between the Prophet ﷺ and Meccan Arabs, when they prevented Muslims coming from Medina for Hajj or Umrah. And the Prophet ﷺ gave so many concessions in return for one thing that he coveted. We have 10 years of peace between us. No boycott, no violence, nothing. Only about 18 months or so after that agreement was made, the other side betrayed the treaty, attacked people who were staying at night, assuming that we have peace treaty already, and cold-bloodedly killing them. Now, how do you call those people in modern terms? War criminals. You have peace, and these people, peace, they're not fighting you. You go to slaughter them. That is where the Quran says, خذوهم واحصروهم فخذوهم واقتلوا المشركين حيث وجدتموهم وخذوهم واحصروهم واقعدوا لهم كل مرصد. Obviously, it is in that context. But again, there is something technical about the exactitude of terms in the Quran. And those propagandists and Islamophobes who keep writing about Islam and hating Jews and Christians and people of the book, aside from the fact that Islam doesn't say hate anyone, really, you hate the deeds, the evil deeds of people. But for person, you pray for them and invite them and help them. But even if they don't, it is their own choice. So there is the case of betrayal, but the ayah did not say فَاقْتُلُوا الْكَافِرِينَ. There is reason for that, because they nowhere in the Quran as a title, that people of the book, as a title was given to Jews and Christians, to Ahl al-Kitab. The simplest evidence for that is to go to Surah Al-Bayyinah, I think it's number 90 in the Quran. لم يكن الذين كفروا من أهل الكتاب والمشركين. In this surah, both in the beginning and at the end of this surah, it made a clear distinction between two kafirs. And we'll talk, inshallah, later about the meaning of kafir, variety of meanings of kafir. But let's say الذين كفروا. It says of the people of the book and mushrikeen. If people of the book are mushrikeen as a title, not as deeds, as a title, why the Quran says people of the book and mushrikeen? That means they're two distinct groups, even though they fall under the rubric of kuffar, those who rejected Islam. So there is proof then, clearly, that the ayah doesn't deal min qareeb aw ba'id, far or near, with people of the book. It is the mushrikeen. And when you connect that with the historical setting, that these were the mushrikeen. It was not Ahl al-Kitab in that particular instant to betray the treaty of Hudaybiyah in particular. So these, the idolatrous Arabs. But the text also explained that beyond any doubt. Remember when I said you read all the, not ayah before and ayah after, but if there is a subsection of 9 ayahs, 10 ayahs, 15, less, more, then you read it all together. If you read it all together, you find that the reason in this, for this allowing you to kill those war criminals, not because they are mushrikeen. Even it's in some of this section from 1 to 15, وَهُمْ بَدَأُوكُمْ أَوَّلَ مَرَّةٍ. They are the ones who started or initiated, meaning aggression against you in the first place. They are the ones who killed the innocent people. And then you say, no, treat them in mercy and so all of that. That's not workable in logic, in international law, in Sharia. You can't. وَهَمُّوا بِإِخْرَاجِ الرَّسُولِ وَهُمْ بَدَأُوكُمْ أَوَّلًا. They even wanted to get the Prophet when he was in Mecca, meaning drive him out from his homeland. So there is more than one evidence, if you read it, to show indeed that it is connected, no question. لَا يَرْقُبُونَ فِي مُؤْمِنٍ إِلًّا وَلَا ذِمَّةٍ. They never observe any kinship or even إِلًّا means ذِمَّة. The word dhimma means covenant, because they had a covenant with Muslim not to fight, and Muslim agreed, never violated. So that shows, again, without doubt, the connection in meaning. And we had centuries of minorities surviving under Muslim rules, including scores and hundreds and thousands of Kitabi women, to whom I can't understand how the verse says, خذوهم, catch them, واحصروهم, stay in ambush for them, اقعدوا لهم. So that means once you marry a woman of the book, according to that twisted understanding, the first thing you do, perhaps in the night of wedding, is to stay in ambush for your wife, because she's a non-believer in Islam. And I don't know where you can stay in ambush, in the kitchen, some other place, whatever. So the first thing to do, first act of faith, according to that twisted understanding, to slaughter your wife. Subhana Rabbi. Anyway, no sanction at all of war against people because of their religious differences. And it is a huge distortion for some people to say, when the Quran says, قَاتِلُوا الْمُشْرِكِينَ إِنَّ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا, when it speaks negatively about the kuffar. But what is missing here, it is not because of the religious difference with them. Nowhere in the Quran does it say that explicitly. But it so happened that those who committed aggression against you, in fact, happened to be kuffar, because usually Muslims sometimes fight Muslims, but those who showed the enmity, it was related to their kufr, action. But if they kept their kufr, did not translate it into action. And that's why there have been a great debate about a statement attributed to Imam Ibn Taymiyyah, Shaykh al-Islam. And the question he was raising basically, do we fight against kuffar because they are non-believer in Islam or because of their aggression? And he concluded it is because of their aggression. Some people sometimes try to discredit the attribution to Imam Ibn Taymiyyah, but there have been research to show that indeed he said it. But even then, the word of Allah is above the word of any other jurist, no matter how much we love or respect. The Quran never said kill someone because he's a kafir, because it accommodates the kuffar and called for kind and just treatment so long as they don't commit aggression. No sanction for that word at all. And the freedom of belief is there always. Another issue that happened immediately after 9/11, that some learned rabbi in New York, big leader, says the reason 9/11 happened is that the Quran teaches that hatred, this is just paraphrasing, teaches hatred and warn Muslim not to get Jews and Christians as their friends. So that's, keep apart from them, boycott them, don't deal with them. Now, the first is a linguistic error here. The word friendship is different from the word used in the Quran in Arabic. The equivalent of friendship is what? Sadaqa, to be a friend. But the Quran didn't say don't take Jews and Christians as your friend. If it's translated like that, it is wrong. Unless you say friends and protectors, awliya. الولاية, again, you can talk a lot about wilaya. Wilaya is not just mere friendship, it's to take them in that context as your allies. And the Quran gives reasons for that. Give reasons. Because in some ayahs, it say don't take them as your protectors rather than Muslims. Well, every religious person would seek the protection of his own community. It is that you don't go to people who are not of your same faith for intimate relationship like protection. In the case of betrayal during war, there was a story about that. Somebody communicated information about the forthcoming marching of Muslims. So it is in that context which is condemned by any case, but even though the Prophet was so kind that he forgave that person. Or the most obvious one is that learned rabbi who's supposed to be reading at least, should have also same knowledge of Jewish and Christian hermeneutics or rules of interpretation. Look at the ayah before or after. He only focused on an ayah 53 of Surah Al-Ma'idah, the 5th surah, even though just two ayahs after that, from 57 to 59, it gives a very powerful reason. وَإِذَا نَادَيْتُمْ إِلَى الصَّلَاةِ اتَّخَذُوهَا هُزُوًا وَلَعَبًا. When you call for the prayer, the azan, they mock at you and your religion and your salah. And you say, okay, then let them mock, but really, we should be very kind and, they must be our buddies. We should take them for our protectors. There are destroyers, not protectors in that case. The general Quranic text also that we said before, that the context mean also the surah, meaning beyond the surah, the Quran, which is again the ayah of peaceful coexistence. Two quick things, if I'm allowed. I'll try to be as fast as possible because this is very important. Books are written by renegades, by apostates and others that Islam calls and consider non-Muslims as infidels. In the English language, the word infidel, especially the connotated meaning, first of all, some dictionaries define an infidel as someone who does not believe in God or who have no religion. That's the English definition. But if you really look carefully at it, you find that the Quran did not refer to Jews and Christians, for example, as infidels. That term is an English term, but not the meaning term. Kuffar, yes, but not infidels. It's an insulting, negative term. All right. Secondly, even idolatrous Arabs are said to have religion, because some people say no, but there is a difference between people of the book and idolatrous Arabs, because idolatrous Arabs are or have no religion. With great respect and love to the great Mufti who said that, may Allah accept his ijtihad. But truth is truth, and the word of the Quran is above the words of any human being. Nobody is ma'soom after Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. In fact, the Quran itself indicates that idolatrous Arabs have a deen. We're not saying that this is Deen al-Haq, this is the religion of truth. They have a deen. When you read in Surah Al-Kafirun, Surah 109, what does it say? Lakum Deenukum. It's not the right religion. Deen, actually, in the Arabic definition, they say al-deenu huwa ma yadinu bihi al-insan. The deen is something that a person confesses to believe in. Does the atheist have a deen? Yeah, he believes in that. He believes that there is no God, as much as Muslims believe that there is the one God. That is deen. It is not the deen of haqq. So that distinction in terms of treatment of others does not seem to be. So none of them really can be called infidel in the English term, but you can call they are kafirs. But even what kafir mean is something very important, because kafir comes from the root K-F-R, which means actually to cover up or to deny. If you look at the Quran carefully, you find contextual meanings quite considerable. There is good kufr, good or required kufr. Where did that come? It comes right from the Quran, Surah Al-Baqarah in ayah 256. لا إكراه في الدين فمن يكفر بالطاغوت ويؤمن بالله anyone who is kafir of, or deny, or reject false gods, so that's good kufr, required. You can't be a Muslim without having that positive kufr. Kufr meaning, but not kufr in the religious sense, kufr meaning deny. I reject as a Muslim that kufr, that a kind of idolatry. Secondly, we find beside the positive references, all contextual. You find also places in the Quran which speaks in a benign, neutral way about kuffar or kufr. Benign. All farmers are regarded as kuffar, whether they're Muslim, Jews, or atheists. Why? Because the farmer put the seeds and cover up. Remember the word cover up, the core meaning. Cover up with the soil. And we find in Surah Al-Hadid, Surah 57 and Ayah 20, أعزب الكفار كمثل إنما مثل الحياة الدنيا كماء أنزلناه من السماء فاختلط به نبات الأرض فأصبح هشيما تذروه الرياح. And then there is also a mention ألم ترى أن الله أنزل من السماء ماء. And then when it comes to farmers, it says that the kuffar welcomed that rain. The kuffar, that means not the rejectors of faith, the kuffar meaning the farmers. So that, but like I always recommend to my brothers, don't go to a farmer and use his sophisticated knowledge and tell him, you're a kafir, brother, because the next thing would be a punch in your nose. So be judicious. But truth is truth for those who want to study in depth. And there is, of course, the negative meaning of kufr. But that kufr is the right of the person, that the Surah Al-Kahf, وَمَنْ شَاءَ فَلْيَكْفُرْ. Whoever wills, let him kufr. They have the right to be believer, they have the right to reject faith. So it's not cursing. It doesn't reduce the seriousness of kufr and its consequences, particularly in the hereafter. But the carelessness on the part of people, rejection of prophets, is regarded as a kufr. So there are layers. You cannot call, for example, according to the term infidel, that Jews don't believe in God, or Christians. Okay? But even others, they have every right to adopt their own religion. And finally, very quickly, is the Quran really critical of other faiths? Why does the Quran keep criticizing others as if it's an attitude on the part of the Prophet or hateful Muslims for that? Well, to start with, we don't have to apologize for that. Say the truth as it is. Say it gently, but say it. First of all, from our perspective as Muslims, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the author of the Quran. It is not written by the Prophet or any human to reflect their attitudes or whatever particularities or idiosyncrasies sometimes. No, it is Allah. And in our belief, we're not imposing on others, but speak for your faith also. That in our understanding, Quran is the word of Allah. And if you're a Jew and Christian, you appreciate more that the attributes of Allah is beyond lack of knowledge, even though some statements here and there might contradict. But generally speaking, Allah is free of all human shortcoming. And as such, He has every right to teach His servants that He created what is good for them. And He has every right also to criticize some of their wrong beliefs or their action. It is out of His mercy, action. It is not for the sake of criticism, so that they can correct themselves. At least the hujjah is being established on them, but let them choose what they want. Are Muslims included in the criticism? Or just because one question was raised, I think, why do Muslims believe that they are better than anybody else and everybody else is bad? No, nobody said that. Islam is the correct faith, yes, because it is not Muslim, and Islam is not equivalent to Muslim. In fact, some Muslims have been criticized in the Quran in more than one occasion, especially some of the battles and the permission that the Prophet gave to some people not to go for the battlefield. And so there are many examples that, yes, Muslims are not free also from criticism. And we accept it as we accept criticism of our faith communities for that matter. But again, as mentioned earlier, any criticism is not categorical. It says for those who do these acts, like we were talking about the Quran distinguishing between a good Jew, an honest one, and the one who's not. Well, that exists among Muslims, among Christians, among people of known religions for that matter. So it's not categorical. And finally, of course, the historical context, as we have seen, provided a number of limits. I was thinking initially to have some word about the big term that was going on all of the time about extremism. How do we understand extremism? How we define it? How do we answer people and say, why is it that Muslims alone have this religious extremism? Are there other forms of political or ideological orientation that is so fanatical that is even worse than religious ideologies? Are there cases where religious ideologies and political ideologies such as racism or superiority or whatever meet together that becomes very potent and very dangerous? And why just point the finger to Muslims, not to every others holier than thou? And we made it clear in the beginning, if there is something really that is wrong, is something really that represents an act of terror, provided a proper definition of that, or extremism, not to everybody define it in their own convenient way. These are all issues perhaps that might be worthy, but the time doesn't allow, and my apology that I might exceed my time with a number of seconds. Jazakumullah khair. I didn't say what that number is. My apology.
Our next speaker is Sister Noha Omari. Sister Noha is from Saudi Arabia, and she's been lecturing on different aspects of Islam for the last 15 years. The topic of her presentation is Reflections from Surah Al-Baqarah. The name of this lesson is Look Beyond What You See.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Two things before I begin. First, whomever was with me yesterday, I need everybody please to stand up. Jazakumullah khair. Everybody please stand up, stand up, stand up, stand up, stand up. Everybody stand up, stretch. Say salam to the person next to you. You can give them a hug, you can just, you can shake their hands, you can kiss them if they want. Good, excellent, wonderful. Does this go down? I'm short. I'm short, and I think it's...
I have to call the brother, otherwise it goes too much.
I don't know, I think it's too high.
I think you can turn it a little down towards your mouth.
صوت واطي؟ لا عالي مرة في وشي. I'm short. It's reminding me how short I am. This is the first thing. These are not mine. I panic when I see these. The second thing. Unfortunately, I'm going to change the topic. Can I do that? I'm going to do it anyway, but I need to change I have to change the topic. I must change the topic. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala benefit us regardless what's the topic. Because there's so many people, so many, that they worry about the topic and what are you going to teach us? And it's not really what we're going to learn, it's what we do with it. So we can learn a lot and then benefit zero. And I always mention this to my students when I talk about knowledge. that I'm a student myself. I learn every day, and if I don't learn something on each day, I just feel that it's a wasted day. And we need to learn, continuously learn, and we keep learning until we die. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala seriously benefit us from any knowledge that we gather, and make it the right knowledge, inshaAllah. And as I said, what I usually tell my students regarding knowledge is Iblis, Shaitan, Satan, Lucifer, whatever. He has a lot of knowledge. He knows a lot. He knows actually probably a lot more than we do. He really, really knows a lot. And when you think about his knowledge and what did he actually benefit from that knowledge is bad, zero. And he's a loser, and he's seriously a bad loser. And we need to think, and we need to really go back to ourselves and think, Ya Rab, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala seriously help us to whatever we learn, the little that we learn, we really hold on to it, and it will transcend into light, and it will help enlighten our minds, our hearts, our vision, basira, and it will guide us to take the right decisions, to take the right steps, to do the right thing, because without it, life can be challenging. طيب, let's start with the new topic. The new topic is, it's called I Am Afraid. It's a very strange name, but that's the topic. Allah created, subhanahu wa ta'ala, 3 types of creations. He created the angels, and He created the humans, and He created the Anbiya from the humans. So the Anbiya are the VIP of all humans. So if you want to categorize them, you have 3. You have angels, malaika, and then you have insan, people. From the people are the VIP people, which is the Anbiya, the Rusul, the prophets of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, alayhim salatu wassalam. طيب. And of these 3, you'll find they react differently to Iman. For instance, Al-Malaika, they have constant Iman. Their Iman doesn't go up and down. It's complete, it's always constant. لا يعصون الله ما أمرهم. They never argue with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They never say, no, I don't think that's logical, I don't want to do this. No, they always follow the orders of Allah. Same rhythm, same routine, one line, doesn't go up and down, subhanak. And then you'll have the normal human. طيب, their iman keeps on going up and down, up and down, up and down during one day. Sometimes during the same hour, subhanallah, you'll find yourself, your iman is not the same. You're not exactly the same. That's the normal human, normal believer. And then you have the Anbiya, the prophets of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Anbiya are unique in every aspect, and I just love learning about them, and I love talking about them, and I love really studying them in depth, because as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered me, he told me, and He told every believer, you should really look at their lives and benefit from their lives, because they are our role models. Obviously the head of them is the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. طيب, the prophets of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, their iman is not the same. Their iman starts like every believer, 0. طيب, and then it keeps going up, and it goes up, and it goes up, and it goes up, and it keeps going up. So does it go down? No, it doesn't. As they stay alive, as they continue to live, طيب, and they do their job as a prophet, their iman keeps on rising and rising and rising and rising with every challenge, subhanallah, with every trial, and then it reaches, it peaks as they are finishing their assignment of prophecy, of prophethood, and then they die, subhanallah. It's absolutely amazing. And the need for iman, what is iman? Why do I need iman? I come from Saudi, and from Saudi, everybody should have knowledge about what's haram and halal, almost everybody, because it's a Muslim country and Islam is taught in school, it's everywhere. So everybody should know the basic haram and halal, what's forbidden, what's allowed, and what's not. And some people have that mentality. You should tell the sister, you should tell the brother that this is haram, this is halal, they shouldn't do this, and this is forbidden, and they should do this and they shouldn't do that. And I refuse, I don't like to do that, because knowing is not the issue. So many people know that this is not allowed and this is allowed. They know it as information, but they lack the fuel inside them to push them to do the right thing or to make them stop from doing the wrong thing. For they lack that, the fuel is not there, so there is a problem with them. It's not that they don't agree, they don't want to do it, they're argumentative. No, it's they cannot do it because they don't have the proper energy to do it. What is that energy? What is that drive that makes us do the right thing and stop doing the wrong thing? That is al-Iman. Al-Iman. It's a very powerful weapon, very, very powerful. I'm going to use the word weapon, or I can use a charger. I cannot use my mobile without charging it. I cannot. It's useless. I cannot, if I have a Porsche, I love cars, by the way. I'm a girl, I know, but I love cars. It's okay. I love cars. Alhamdulillah, I'm not rich. If I'm rich, I'll have like a dozen of them. I love them. Anyway, Porsche, you cannot use a Porsche or a Ferrari. It's useless. How pretty it is, how gorgeous it is, it doesn't matter because it needs petrol, it needs fuel. If I fuel it, then I can use it. Otherwise, it has no meaning. A laptop, anything, this camera, anything without fuel, it is absolutely useless. Me as a whole, without this fuel, I am useless. I cannot do what I must do. So I don't have the right to go to any brother, any sister, a Muslim, a believer, طيب, and you tell them, this is haram, you should not do this. Because what you're looking at for their behavior, how they look, the sins they're committing, this is the هنا صعب عرض وليس المرض. دكتور جمال كيف أقول عرض وليس المرض? This is the symptoms and not the cause of the disease. طيب? The symptoms are outside and this is what you're seeing. But there is a disease lurking inside. What is this disease? The iman is so weak. And I need to address that iman. I should not talk about the things that are outside, protruding, طالع لبرا صح, that shows that there is a disease. So I should stop doing this, and I should always focus on fixing the core of the heart and increasing that iman. Yesterday, whoever was with us yesterday, I talked about Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam, and how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, from Surah Taha, reflection Surah Taha, how Allah Azza wa Jalla is going to give him his assignment and he's going to become a prophet, a very powerful prophet, and he's going to start his journey with this message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'm not going to go through the ayat. I want to go through segments, one or two ayat from different surah, and I want to describe the psychological state of Sayyidina Musa, the Prophet Musa alayhi salam, and I want to describe the faith status of Sayyidina Musa, his iman. I want to describe who am I to describe it? It's not me actually, it's the Quran. Al-Quran describes to us what's happening inside Musa alayhi salam as he approaches the command of Allah. Come, listen to me, throw your staff, it's going to become a snake in a minute, and what's going to happen to him? It starts with Allah telling him, Ana Allah, a'budni, aqimi salata lidhikri, you're a prophet, I need you to go to Musa. Alqi asak, I need you to go to Fir'aun, sorry. This is the assignment. And I need you to throw your staff. Is it called a staff? What is it called? A staff, asaya? A cane, your cane, asaya. Throw it. And as he did, as Allah describes in Surah An-Naml, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم, وألق عصاك فلما رآها تهتز كأنها جان ولا مدبرا ولم يعقب. He threw it. And I need you again to picture this. Because if I don't picture this, then I don't get the lesson. I don't get it. It has nothing to do with me. But I need to feel that this has to do so much with me today, where I live today, with my challenges and my struggles today, 2018. Musa alayhi salam, he's new. All of this is new. He's afraid. He's in the middle of nowhere. It's dark. This voice is telling him, I am your master, I am your Lord, and I want you to take off your shoes, and I want you to throw the staff, throw the cane in your hand. And he did. So he did. When he did that, it turned into a snake, a huge snake. This is really scary. And then the proper or the normal reaction to that is to run away. No way, I'll see a snake and I'll just, oh, cute, nice, very nice, that's awesome. No, I'm going to run away, and this is what's going to happen. Some people would say, whoa, he's a prophet, he should stand there and be strong and handle this like a prophet. No, he's just a man. He's a man. And Allah is describing this to us, and He makes it a point to show this to us. To show what? To teach us how He feels. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this ayah, Surah An-Naml, He's saying, Ya Musa la takhaf, which don't be afraid, which means that as he was standing and he saw the snake, he became so terrified. Walla mudbiran. He ran away. Walla yatawalla is when you do a U-turn, a quick U-turn, and run as fast as you can. طيب, the opposite direction of this danger. Okay. And walam yu'aqqib, and he did not turn around. You know, when sometimes something scary happens to you and you run. But sometimes curiosity, you turn, you want to look, is it gone? What is it exactly? Is it following me? This is yu'aqqib. He did not do that. He just kept on running and running. I don't want to see this. This is really scary. This is unbelievable. This whole experience is very scary. I cannot handle this. I'm afraid. So is it okay for me to feel afraid? I'm a mu'min. I'm a da'iyah. I'm a teacher. Is it okay for me to cry? Is it okay for me to feel weak? Is it okay for Dr. Jamal or my brothers or my scholars here, ulama, is it okay for them to cry and feel weak? Or no, you're not allowed. You shouldn't cry. In Saudi you call them mataba. I don't know what you call them here. You shouldn't do this. As a mu'min, you should just stand your ground firmly and you should not do this. No, I'm human. I feel afraid. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created me weak. وَخُلِقَ الْإِنسَانُ ضَعِيفًا. Allah Azza wa Jal describes who am I. He told me, insan is me. Human nature is to feel weak. I cannot sit here and say, no, I'm actually, I'm an exception to this ayah. I'm actually quite strong and powerful. No, I'm not. I'm a human. I am weak. And so are you. All of us. There's no human that's strong. We're all weak inside and very fragile. And that's what makes us human. And that's what's amazing about us. Because that in itself lies in it our strength. Every time your weakness it hits you in front of you. That's a wonderful feeling as a believer. Why? Because I can just go to run to Him. To whom? To Almighty Al-Qawi, Allah. And just tell Him, I'm so weak. I need you. Help. I cannot do this without you. Musa, alayhi salam. Musa is not a normal prophet. All prophets are not normal, but you know, there's like a VIP and there's a VIP of the VIP. Ulul Azm, Musa is one of them. He's afraid. La takhaf, don't be afraid. Surah Al-Qasas, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells him, Aqbil wa la takhaf, come back. Because you're running, don't run. Ya Allah, this is too hard for me to be a believer, to do what I must do, to do what you want me to do. And today, with all the circumstances around me, everything that's happening around me, I cannot do this. I know, as if He's telling me and you, I know. But come back. Aqbil, come back. Wala takhaf. Don't be afraid. I love the ending of the ayah. This is Surah Al-Qasas. إِنَّكَ مِنَ الْآمِنِينَ. You're safe. You are, actually it's not you're safe, that's a wrong translation. You are among those who are safe. Do you know what's the difference in linguistics? This is very difficult for me. I'm from Saudi, I'm Arabic. Very difficult to explain Arabic grammar in English. I'll try my best, but I have to because it's beautiful. Allah could have said, you are amin. Come back. Don't be afraid. And anta amin. You are safe. He could have said that. Linguistically, it's correct. He didn't say that. He said, innaka min al-aminin. What's the difference? He's telling him, you are among those who are safe, which applies that you are not alone. If you feel alone, you are not alone. There are so many people like you, believers in me, like you, struggling, suffering, feeling afraid, feeling lonely. And you are one of them. So don't be afraid and don't feel lonely. All of that embedded in just this one tiny word, Subhanak ya Allah. Rabbi subhanahu wa ta'ala, language is absolutely amazing in the Quran. I'm Arabic. I'm Arabic. I don't have any origin from any other country. So, but I'm still learning Arabic because the Arabic I know is not the proper Arabic, so I need to learn too. Wallahi, every time I read, I learn something in a grammatical way. I just feel, Ya Rabbi, you just put so much meaning into one word. One word, there's so much meaning into it. And I just feel we need to take every single word and we dissect every single word. There's so much embedded inside it. And Allah is telling us so much in it, subhanahu wa ta'ala. Come back. Come back. He's gonna come back. When he's gonna come back, is the fear gone? Logically, as a human, is it gone? No, it's still there. But this voice is very comforting voice, the voice of Allah. And He just told me, you're gonna be safe. So come back. Okay? My heart is pounding. I can barely breathe. I'm gonna come back. So he came back. So that's the first step of Iman. Come back and don't run away. It's too hard. I know. Come back. Come. You need to come back. You cannot run in the opposite direction. Why? Because there is nowhere to go. Every highway leads to Allah. Every road. Excuse me. Every road leads to Him. No matter how hard we try to go anywhere else, we cannot. Eventually, we are heading into the same destination, to Him, subhanahu wa ta'ala. So He did. This beautiful prophet, he did. He came back. He held his ground firmly and he came back. His heart is pounding, heavy breathing, borderline panicking, but I'm gonna come back. That's scene one. If we want to describe this as a movie, this is scene 1. Surah Al-Qasas and Surah Al-Naml. Then I'm gonna jump forward. He's gonna take his assignment and he asks for tools to help him. Allah is gonna help him. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli waj'al li waziran min ahli. Surah Taha. He's asking for some tools and he got them all. He's gonna get everything he needs to do this. As we need to do this. I need to do this. So Rabbi, I need 1, 2, 3. قد أوتيت سؤلك يا موسى. Musa, I'm gonna give you every single thing you have asked for. And as if he's telling me, my name is Nuha. Nuha, I'm gonna give you everything you need. No problem. Since you came back to me and you're asking me for this, I'm gonna give it to you. Lovely, wonderful. How much time do I have?
5 minutes.
5 minutes? Whoa, that's not enough. I need about 10. طيب. He took it, went to the Pharaoh. He got really angry, obviously, and he said, "This cannot be. We need to finish this, and we need to deal with this. And what are we going to do?" He asked his advisors, "Let's do like a debate or like a battle with who has better sorcery, Musa or your sorcerers, Pharaoh." And they did that, and now they're gonna have like a very big festival, a very big party, like a huge event where the Pharaoh is gonna show all his might and all his power. And Musa alayhi salam and his brother alayhi salatu wassalam, Harun, they both stood there at that particular moment, that junction where Allah told him, "Go and do your job. طيب ya Rabbi, I'll do it." So he stood there. When he saw all the sorcerers standing in front of him, there is no authentic narration how many were they, but they were a lot, regardless, wallahi. If there were only 10 of them, doesn't matter, because it's a huge auditorium, a huge stage where the Pharaoh is sitting there with all his his squad, أقدر أسميهم squad, with all his squad and all the Ala Fir'aun, his family and his clan and everybody that followed him, and the people of Egypt, everyone is there, and the army is there, and the police is there, and everybody is there. Everyone is on one side, and on the other side stood Musa, alayhi salam. He's a prophet, he's a mu'min, he should stand there strongly. Was he afraid? Obviously not, it can't be, it's impossible. Me standing here, should I feel afraid? No, you should not. You're a da'iyah, you should be very strong. Did he feel afraid? He was terrified. How could you say this about Musa? I didn't say it, Allah said it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said this. When he saw them, all of them standing in front of him with their eyes gazing like animals, like vicious hate, so much hate coming out of their eyes, and they're holding their staffs and they're holding, they've gathered all of their things to impress the people and impress the Pharaoh with all their magic and dark magic. Musa only had his staff, his cane, and he stood there. This is really intimidating. This is really frightening. And Allah describes this subhanahu wa ta'ala in في Surah Taha subhanahu wa ta'ala. When they stood there in front of each other, and he saw them, and they told him, أنت ألقي أو نحن لنلقي. Who's going to throw their stuff? Who's going to start this war, this vicious war of throwing, has the better sorcery? Us or you, Ya Musa? He said, no, you do it. You start. So they did. When they did, they had powerful sorcery. Allah describes it as powerful sorcery, subhanahu wa ta'ala. What happened to Musa as he stood there and he saw it, alayhi salatu salam? فأوجس في نفسه خيفة موسى. He was afraid. Again, that's unacceptable. No, that is acceptable. في نفسه. Did he run away? If you flick through al-ayat, is there a mention of him walla running? He would just ran out? Actually, no. So what's the difference between scene 1 and scene 2? He's still afraid. In his heart was full of fear. Yet he stood there. He did not run. Why? What happened? What changed? Iman. Iman has increased. It's giving him energy. It's giving him power. It's giving him what he lacks. I need this. I need to be connected to Allah. I cannot do this without him. I cannot. Every single day I need to be charged. Every single day. He stood there. فأوجس في نفسه خيفة موسى. And then Allah told him, قلنا لا تخف. Allah spoke to him in his heart and in his mind. لا تخاف. Don't be afraid. Just do your thing and don't worry. You'll be fine. حقيقة التوكل. I don't know what's tawakkul in English. I have no idea. إيش توكل? Putting trust in Allah subhanahu. Complete and absolute trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Huh? Dependence on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. My baby, I have a 2-year-old. My baby had a very bad fever, and I was telling my house nanny, she's a very nice lady, but they couldn't afford medication, and the same thing happened to her daughter when she was back home. And my daughter had her fever was 40, and I could not bring the fever down. We were doing alternating different medications, so the fever would go down, and then khalas, her body cannot take any more medications, so we had to do like a bath with water so the fever will drop. And obviously as a mother I'm panicking because the fever is not dropping, and I was telling her, what do you do, because you cannot afford medication in your country? She said, Surah Al-Fatiha, calmly. That's complete depending on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Surah Al-Fatiha, it works perfectly without it's the medication. And I just thought, Subhanak ya Rabbi, exactly Surah Al-Fatiha, subhanallah. What happened? Scene 3. They finished the sorcery, the sorcerers, all of them, the magicians, all of them. Kharru sujjada, they fell into the ground in sajda, and they became believers instantly. Subhanak ya Allah, subhanak. And they died after a few hours. They're gonna die. Fir'aun is going to kill them. Subhanallah, they woke up in the morning worshipping Fir'aun, committing sorcery all their lives. So they are at the bottom of Jahannam, at the bottom of hellfire. After a few hours at midday, they die for the sake of Allah, and the people who die for the sake of Allah go all the way up to Firdaus. Just a few hours changed their fate. Subhanak ya Rabbil Alameen. And then scene 3, Fir'aun Musa alayhi salam took the Bani Israel, the children of Israel, as Allah ordered him subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they went and they ran away from Egypt. As they reached the water, as you all know the story, they reached the water, but then they got stuck because the water is in front of them, and the Pharaoh with his army is coming behind them. The scene is very intense, it's very scary, everybody is terrified. Women, children, they're not fighters, they're very simple people. Most of them are peasants or are slaves, so they have no idea how to fight, they have no idea how to protect themselves, and they are very weak people. We don't know what to do. قالوا إنا لمدركون. We're dead, we're toast, we're gone, خلاص, because Fir'aun is coming, he's gonna get us, and there's water in front of us. There's no way out. Definitely we are stuck, and there is no absolute hope to what we have been in right now. At this particular moment, you're going to hear Musa alayhi salam demonstrating what happens to the heart when it's completely engulfed and fulfilled with Iman. It just transforms the person into another person completely. قَالَ كَلَّا. Impossible. No way. إِنَّ مَعِيَ رَبِّي سَيَهْدِينَ. Allah is with me. My Lord is with me. He will guide me and He will show me how to get out of this mess. I'm stuck. I'm in a mess. And I don't know what to do. No way He will let me down. He is with me. Why is He with you? Now, why are you so sure? Because all of my life He's been with me. He's not going to let me, He's not going to leave me now, subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when you look at the ayat, this is in Surah Al-Shu'ara, when you look at the ayat, you don't find the word khaf, khaif, fear. There's no fear. The description of fear does not exist in the ayat anymore. It's gone. Completely gone. How? It started him running and not being able to sit for 5 minutes to listen to the command of Allah. It started like this, yes, as a human. And then Iman increased. The fear was inside, but he held his ground. And then scene 3. He's facing the most challenging role ever. There is no way out. And subhanallah, at that particular moment when all doors close completely, absolutely, and as a human, my logical mind is telling me, no way I'm gonna get out of this. Then and only then, Allah is telling me, actually, there is a way. There is a way. But in order for you to get the key, you need to hold your ground. You need to stay with me. You can't just leave me. Stay with me and I will help you. I need to say just one last thing. I know I've crossed my time. I'm a student of Seerah. I study Seerah. I just love the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam a lot. I just study Seerah a lot and I read it in depth. I love history. And Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, when revelation came down, Al-Muddathir and Al-Muzammil, scholars say that we don't know which one was first. The revelation of prophecy, you are a prophet and get up and rise and warn people, Ya ayyuha al-muddathir qum fa'anzir, and the other one, Ya ayyuha al-muzammil qum al-layl illa qalila. Both were revealed at technically the same time. And when I look at this and I think, why both at the same time? As if Allah is telling me through a Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you need to do your job and you need to get up and do your job, which is very challenging, very difficult, close to impossible sometimes. And you cannot do this without connecting with me first. Salah, prayer, dua, dhikr, Quran, qiyam layl. You need that. If a Nabi needs it, sallallahu qum al-layl, ya ayyuha al-muzammil, go get up and pray. Wallahi, one of the ladies that taught me a long time ago, she told me, you know how when you're going to teach anything, and you didn't have any time to read Quran. As you're going along the way, just open the Quran and just read one page, just one page. Because this one page will give you a lot of strength. Just one page. Don't go empty. Don't go empty. You need to fill yourself so you'll be able to give the people some of the things that you have inside you. Otherwise, we'll all be just empty words and empty knowledge with zero effect. Life is hard, very hard. And to follow the rules of Allah, the command of Allah is hard. I hate it when somebody says, no, it's easy, come, it's really easy, Allah will help you. No, it's hard. It is hard, and we need to take it as it is. It is hard. And the only way for it to become easy is when I'm fully connected with Him. Little connection can go a long way. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala remove fear from our hearts. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala fill our hearts with Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we can continue this journey and we will fulfill our role, all of us, literally all of us. May Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa we become like the apple of His eyes. قرة عين للنبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يوم القيامة. جزاكم الله عني خير الجزاء. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Dr. Tasneem Zaman. He is going to speak on the topic security of the woman in Islam.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. My dear brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I stand here to show you that I am secure. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made it possible for all women around the world to be secure. But I feel sometimes very disheartened when I think of all the women throughout history who have suffered and still suffer because the message of Islam has not reached the heart. And when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the farewell message during his last Hajj said, "O people, fear from Allah in the matter of women and treat them carefully and fairly as Islam teaches you." If only this was implanted in the heart of every man and woman, there would be no fear at all. Sister was talking about fear. I think women live in fear all over the world. But we need to understand that Islam has freed us from that fear, and we owe it to Islam. Freed us from what? Freed us from, as people say, it's a curse to be a woman. But I say no, it's a blessing. It's a blessing that we can give so much to the world. So as a daughter, I have found security. We saw in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, children, little babies crying out, put in the ground and buried. Just imagine how a child would cry out, "Don't put me in the ground, Father." But she was. Islam has given women equal status because humanity cannot grow without both of them. Islam tells us in Surah Nisa that we created man with men and women. They are together, and we must understand that. Islam gave security through education. Because when Iqra was revealed, it was not only for men, it is for mankind. And mankind means men and women. So as a daughter, I have security through my life. My life is safe, protected by Islam. I have equal status with men, and I am equal to all. And then I have a right to education that will uplift my soul towards Allah. Islam has given woman the right security as a wife. But I read somewhere that a brother somewhere got a big club saying, Allah has granted me the permission to beat my wife. And someone said, look, it's only a toothpick that you use. So he says, this is my toothpick, and he got a big club to beat his wife. But Islam does not say that. Islam has said that a wife has security, wife has protection, wife is to be cared for. So in the first place, before marriage, a woman is given the right to give her consent in marriage. She cannot be forced into marriage. She must be asked. She also has the right, if she doesn't like the husband, for separation. She has the right to be treated with dignity, and this, I believe, is very, very important. The dignity of a woman as a human being. And Islam gives us the right. The right as a mother, which is very important. As Dr. Jamal Badami tells us, that a woman, a mother, has been given the first prize, the second prize, the third prize. Because when Rasulullah was asked, who should we respect? He said, your mother. And then, your mother. And then, your mother. So first prize, second prize, third prize. Father, that's the fourth prize, the consolation.